AITA for exposing my wife's lies after she blamed me during our anniversary dinner? I'm Justin, 38, and Serena and I had been married for 9 years by the time that dinner happened. For most of those years, I was the person who kept extra coffee creamer in the refrigerator because she always forgot we were out, reset the thermostat before bed because she hated waking up cold, and knew exactly which takeout order she wanted when she said she was fine with anything. I honestly believed being steady counted as love. Somewhere along the way, Serena started calling steady emotionally unavailable. The strange part was that every time I tried to be more attentive, she found a way to turn the effort into another charge against me. I didn't marry someone I hated. I married someone warm, funny, and almost impossible not to love. Serena could turn a grocery run into a 20-minute comedy routine. She remembered people's birthdays. She brought soup to sick friends. In the first few years of our marriage, we spent Friday nights eating on the couch and laughing at terrible movies. When we argued, we usually cooled down, talked, and moved on. The change wasn't dramatic at first. It showed up in small punishments. One year, Serena wanted to put an expensive living room set on a credit card right after we had paid for a major home repair. I told her I liked the furniture, but the timing was bad. She stared at me across the kitchen island and said, "It must be nice to always be the reasonable one." "I'm not saying no to hurt you," I said. "I'm saying no because it doesn't make sense right now." She barely spoke to me for 3 days. Not open anger. That would have been easier. She answered practical questions with one word, slept with her back to me, and moved around the house like I was a co-worker she disliked. On the 4th morning, she kissed my cheek before leaving as if nothing had happened. I told myself she had needed space. Then it happened after a party. I had a headache and asked if we could leave around 11. Serena smiled at everyone, said good night, and was silent during the drive home. The moment we got inside, she dropped her purse on the entry table. "You made me look unwanted," she said. "How?" "You couldn't even stay because I was having a good time." "I had a headache." "You always have a reasonable explanation." That became one of her favorite accusations. If I stayed calm, I was performing. If I defended myself, I was invalidating her. If I apologized, I was only doing it to end the fight. If I asked what she needed, she said I should already know. I started choosing silence because silence seemed like the least damaging option. That was my mistake. I thought I was preventing escalation. Serena later used those quiet stretches as proof that I had emotionally abandoned her. The affection changed too. A kiss in the kitchen became something I received when she was pleased with me. Intimacy disappeared after disagreements and returned without discussion once I gave in on whatever issue had started the conflict. If I tried to talk about that pattern, she said I was reducing our marriage to sex. So I stopped talking about it. I bought flowers. She left them wrapped on the kitchen counter until the petals curled at the edges. I suggested weekly date nights. She said scheduled romance felt fake. I planned a weekend away. She said it was manipulative to book something before we had done the emotional work. I asked what the emotional work looked like. "You listening without defending yourself," she said. "I can listen, but I need to be allowed to explain what actually happened." That's exactly the problem. You care more about facts than feelings. I booked couples counseling anyway. The first appointment was for a Tuesday evening. Serena agreed when I sent her the confirmation, then canceled it the morning of the session because she said she felt anxious about being blamed by a stranger. I rescheduled for 2 weeks later. She canceled again, saying the counselor's website felt biased. I found a different counselor. Serena said Friday afternoons were impossible, even though she had originally told me Friday would work best. After the 3rd cancellation, I asked her to choose the counselor and the time. She said, "Now you're making me do all the labor." That was around the time Adrian began appearing in our marriage without technically being in it. Adrian was an old friend of Serena's. I had met him several times over the years. He was smooth in the way some people are smooth because no one has forced them to respect a boundary. He called everyone man, remembered just enough personal information to seem thoughtful, and had a habit of positioning himself as the calmest person in any room. At first, his name came up casually. Adrian says I shouldn't have to beg to be heard. Adrian thinks couples stop appreciating each other. Adrian checked on me today because he could tell I was upset. Then the late messages started. One night, Serena's phone lit up on the nightstand at 12:18 a.m. I wasn't looking through it. The preview was visible from where I was lying. "Adrian, You okay? You sounded off earlier. I waited until morning. Why is Adrian texting you after midnight? I asked. Serena spread creamer into her coffee without looking at me. Because he actually asks how I'm doing instead of interrogating me. I asked one question, and your tone answered the rest. Another time, a rideshare charge appeared on the card we used for household expenses. When I asked about it, Serena said she had met Adrian for coffee because she needed perspective. Why didn't you tell me? Because you would react like this. Like what? I'm standing in the kitchen asking you what happened. You're doing that thing where you sound reasonable, so I look crazy. I remember gripping the edge of the counter and realizing I no longer knew what response was available to me. If I raised my voice, I proved her point. If I stayed calm, I was manipulating the optics. If I walked away, I was abandoning her. So I said, I don't think another man should be getting the most intimate version of our marriage while I get silence. She laughed once, without humor. Then maybe act like someone I can talk to. A few weeks later, Serena's mother, Elaine, repeated a version of our marriage I barely recognized. We were having dinner at Elaine's house. Serena had gone to help in the kitchen, and Elaine leaned toward me at the table. My daughter told me she begged you to get help, she said. I put down my fork. We tried counseling. She said you refused. I booked 3 appointments. Elaine's expression hardened. Justin, I'm not trying to attack you, but you can be very cold. I looked toward the kitchen doorway. Serena was laughing at something while she carried in a bowl of salad. I could have corrected Elaine right there. I should have. Instead, I said, this isn't the place. Serena heard me. Her smile stayed in place. On the drive home, I asked why her mother believed I had refused counseling. I told her how it felt, Serena said. That isn't how it felt. That's a fact. I booked the appointments. You booked them after I had been asking for emotional effort for years. You canceled them. Because I didn't feel safe going with you. Then why tell people I refused? She turned toward the passenger window. I'm not doing this while you're in prosecutor mode. That conversation should have been the moment I understood what was happening. Instead, I kept believing that if I found the perfect tone, the perfect counselor, or the perfect evening, Serena would meet me in the middle. Our 9th anniversary was coming up, and I planned a dinner at a restaurant Serena had mentioned several times. I reserved a quiet table, paid a deposit for anniversary seating, and added a bottle of wine she liked and a small dessert with a message on the plate. I also put a refundable deposit on a weekend hotel stay for the following month. I wasn't trying to buy forgiveness. I wanted one evening without phones, friends, or competing versions of reality. 2 weeks before the dinner, I brought up Adrian again after another late message. I'm asking for a clear boundary, I said. No private conversations about our marriage with him, and no messages after midnight unless there's an emergency. Serena folded her arms. You don't get to control who supports me. I'm not telling you that you can't have friends. I'm telling you that using another man to make your husband feel replaceable is damaging our marriage. You feel replaceable because you know you stopped trying. I haven't stopped trying. You scheduled activities. That's not the same as showing up emotionally. What would showing up emotionally look like right now? It would look like admitting you made me feel unwanted. I can admit you feel unwanted. I won't admit I created every part of that feeling when you've rejected every attempt to reconnect. Serena's face went still. I need someone safe in the room, she said. Before I could ask what she meant, she texted Chloe. Chloe was Serena's best friend. I liked her well enough, but I knew she had only heard Serena's version of our problems. 20 minutes later, Chloe walked into our house with her arms folded and her mouth set in a line. Serena was already crying on the couch. There had been no threat, no yelling, and no physical intimidation. I was standing by the kitchen counter with a cold cup of coffee when Chloe arrived. Serena had transformed a boundary conversation into an intervention. Chloe sat beside her. You don't get to ignore her for months and then act shocked when she stops wanting you near her, Chloe said. That's not what happened, I replied. Serena wiped under one eye. You always do this. You wait until there's another person in the room. Then you become calm and polished. I was calm before Chloe got here. See, Serena said to her. He only cares about being technically right. I looked at Chloe. What exactly has Serena told you? Chloe glanced at her, then back at me. She told me you refused counseling. She told me you stopped planning anything. She told me you've barely touched her in months and then accused her of being inappropriate because she has a friend who listens. I felt something inside me settle. not rage. Clarity. I booked counseling 3 times, I said. Serena canceled all 3. Chloe's eyes moved toward Serena. Serena immediately said, "Don't do this. Don't perform." "I'm not performing. I'm correcting a statement." "She canceled because she didn't feel emotionally safe," Chloe said, but there was less certainty in her voice. "Then why were you told I refused?" Neither of them answered. Serena stood and paced toward the window. "This is exactly why I wanted Chloe here. You twist everything into a courtroom." "No," I said. "You brought a witness into our marriage and gave her a false history." Chloe looked uncomfortable, but Serena kept going. Then she said the thing that changed the entire situation. "Adrian should come to our anniversary dinner." For a second, I thought I had misheard her. "Our anniversary dinner? He's been emotionally supportive, and I'm tired of you treating him like a threat. If you're secure in this marriage, you should be able to sit at a table with someone who cares about me." I looked at Chloe. She wouldn't meet my eyes. "So your plan to fix our marriage is to invite another man to our anniversary dinner?" I asked. Serena's voice sharpened. "If you acted like a husband, maybe I wouldn't need other people to make me feel seen." My phone buzzed on the counter. A shared calendar notification appeared. Serena had added Adrian to the reservation date. She had also added Chloe. She did it while standing in front of me. That was the moment I stopped trying to win the argument. I said, "I need some air." Serena gave Chloe a look that said my exit proved everything. I went for a drive, parked in a quiet lot, and called my younger brother, Ryan. He listened without interrupting while I explained the late-night messages, the canceled counseling sessions, Elaine's accusation, Chloe's arrival, and the anniversary invitation. When I finished, I said, "If I show everyone the records, am I just humiliating her back?" Ryan was quiet for a few seconds. "Do not make this uglier than it already is," he said. "Don't threaten Adrian. Don't flirt with somebody else. Don't post anything. Don't scream. Save the proof. I'm tired of being quiet while she edits the truth. Then bring the truth. Not rage. Truth. I still don't want to destroy her. Setting a boundary isn't revenge. But keep it boring. Make consequences clean and impossible to argue with." I drove home after midnight. Serena was in the guest room. The hallway light was off, and the flowers I had bought 2 days earlier were still on the kitchen counter, unopened. I made coffee, even though it was too late to drink it, and sat at the table with my laptop. I did not go through Serena's phone. I did not guess passwords or open private accounts. I only pulled records I already had access to, my texts, our joint household email, our shared calendar, reservation confirmations, bank alerts, and voicemail she had sent me. The timeline was worse than I expected. There were 3 counseling confirmations, each booked under my name. There were 3 cancellation emails, each submitted through Serena's email address. There were messages where I suggested dinner, a walk, a weekend away, or an hour without our phones. Her replies were all versions of no. "Not tonight. This feels forced. I don't want to reward you for doing the minimum. You're only asking because you know I'm pulling away." There was the shared calendar entry showing that Serena had added Adrian and Chloe to our anniversary dinner without asking me. There was the rideshare receipt from her coffee with Adrian charged to the household card. There was a voicemail from 3 weeks earlier that I had replayed at the time, but not fully absorbed. Serena's voice sounded controlled, almost tired. "I don't want to fix this until you understand how much power I have to walk away. You keep acting like I'll always be here no matter what. Maybe you need to feel what it's like to compete for me." I sat in the kitchen with cold coffee beside my hand and listened to it twice. For months, I thought I was failing a marriage. That night, I realized I was fighting a script. The next morning, I emailed myself copies of the records and saved printed versions in a plain envelope. I made a 1-page timeline. No insults. No commentary. Just dates, actions, and the matching confirmation. I also called the restaurant. The anniversary table itself could remain, but I removed the prepaid bottle and dessert. I told them there would be separate checks and that my card was not to be used for any guest I did not authorize. The manager was professional and asked no questions. I canceled the hotel reservation. Most of the deposit was refundable. A bank alert hit my phone 10 minutes later. Then I sent Serena one text. "You wanted witnesses, so I'm giving you one." She replied almost immediately. "Don't embarrass yourself tonight." I did not respond. The following days were strangely quiet. Serena seemed pleased by my silence. She moved around the house with the calm confidence of someone who believed the outcome had already been decided. At one point, she mentioned that two mutual friends might stop by for a drink after dinner because they were worried about her. I said, "Of course they are." She narrowed her eyes. "What is that supposed to mean?" "Nothing. That was the last time I gave her an opening before the dinner." When I arrived at the restaurant, Serena, Chloe, and Adrian were already seated. Serena looked polished and composed in the dress she wore when she wanted to appear effortless. Chloe sat stiffly beside her with both hands around a water glass. Adrian had taken the seat to Serena's right and angled his chair slightly toward her, as if he belonged there. He stood when I approached. "Justin, man," he said. "Glad you came." "Glad I came. To my own anniversary dinner." I looked at Serena. I thought this was our anniversary dinner, not a hearing. She gave me a patient smile. "Tonight is the first time in months you can finally listen." I pulled out the empty chair across from her, but did not sit. A server approached with menus. Serena ordered the wine I had originally selected. The server glanced at the note on the reservation and said, "Just to confirm, that will be placed on a separate check." Serena's smile flickered. "What separate check?" she asked. "I changed the reservation," I said. Adrian leaned back. Chloe stared at me. Serena lowered her voice. "You're already trying to control the room." "No, I'm controlling what I pay for." The server wisely stepped away. I placed the envelope beside Serena's wineglass. "I was told this dinner was about fixing our marriage," I said. "Then I found out I was only invited to confess to a version of it that never happened." Serena looked at the envelope but did not touch it. "This is what you do," she said. "You turn feelings into evidence. You invited Chloe to judge me. You invited Adrian to make me feel replaceable. You invited mutual friends to watch what happened afterward. So before anyone decides what I need to admit, they're going to see the part you left out." Chloe looked at Serena. "What's in there?" "Nothing that matters," Serena said quickly. "He's trying to humiliate me." I slid the envelope toward Chloe. "You were invited here as a witness," I said. "Before you judge me, read it." Serena reached for the envelope, but Chloe picked it up first. "Chloe, don't," Serena said. That was the wrong thing to say. Chloe opened it. The first page was the timeline. The next pages were the appointment confirmations and cancellation emails. Then the text exchanges about dates, the shared calendar entry, the hotel deposit, and a transcript of the voicemail with a note that the original recording was on my phone. Chloe read slowly at first. Then she went back to the first counseling confirmation. "Wait," she said. "Why does this say Justin booked it?" Serena folded her napkin in her lap. "Because booking an appointment after years of neglect doesn't erase what happened." "That isn't what I asked." Chloe held up the cancellation email. "Why does this say you canceled it?" "I told you I didn't feel safe." "You told me he refused to go." Serena looked at me instead of answering Chloe. "You're enjoying this," she said. "No," I replied. "I'm finished protecting a lie that was hurting me." Adrian cleared his throat. "Man, this is between you two." I turned to him. "Exactly. That's why you shouldn't have been invited." He held up one hand. "I'm just here because she needed support. You were texting my wife after midnight, discussing our marriage with her, meeting her privately, and accepting an invitation to our anniversary dinner. You knew enough to understand the boundary. I didn't know she told you something different." "What did she tell you?" Chloe asked. Adrian glanced at Serena. "She said Justin didn't care who she talked to. She said the marriage was basically over except for paperwork." My stomach tightened, but I kept my voice even. Serena leaned toward him. "That's not what I said." Adrian took out his phone. "You said he checked out a long time ago." Chloe was looking at Serena now, not me. "Did you tell him the marriage was basically over?" she asked. I said it felt over. "You keep replacing facts with feelings," Chloe said. Serena's eyes filled. Under different circumstances, I would have reached for her hand. That reflex was still in me. I hated that it was still in me. She looked at Chloe. "You know how lonely I've been." "I know what you told me," Chloe replied. "I'm asking whether it was true." Serena pressed her lips together. Chloe opened her own messages and scrolled. I watched her expression change. Then she turned the screen toward Serena. The message was from the night Chloe had come to our house. "Tonight, I'll make him admit he's the problem. I need you there so he can't rewrite it later." The table went silent. Chloe's voice was low. "You didn't ask me to come because you were afraid. You asked me to come because you wanted a witness to a confession." Serena shook her head. I was trying to create accountability. No, Chloe said. You were using me. Adrian looked down at his phone, scrolling through his own conversation with Serena. His expression tightened. What? Serena asked him. He held up the screen just enough for us to see the message. I like that Justin knows you're around. Maybe he'll stop taking me for granted. Adrian stared at her. You told me you didn't care whether he knew. Serena's breathing became shallow. I was upset when I wrote that. He put his phone face down. You made it sound like I was helping you leave. You were helping me feel supported. You were using me to get a reaction out of him. I finally sat down, not because I intended to stay, but because I wanted to say the next part without looming over anyone. Adrian, you're not my rival, I said. You're the prop she used because she knew I still cared. His face flushed. He looked embarrassed, then angry, but not at me. Serena turned toward me. You're acting like this proves you were a good husband. It proves the story you told everyone was false. You did go cold. Yes, I said. Sometimes I did. I avoided conflict. I stopped saying what I thought because every conversation became a trap. That was unhealthy. And I own it. But I did not refuse counseling. I did not stop trying. I did not approve of Adrian being placed in the middle of our marriage. And I did not agree to be brought here to confess in front of an audience. Her tears spilled over. You only care because you look bad. I cared when this was private. You made it public. Two mutual friends appeared near the host stand. Serena had apparently told them what time to come. One of them raised a hand, saw the expressions at our table, and stopped. Serena noticed them and whispered, Please don't do this. I looked at her. This was your event. I stood. I'm not competing with a man you invited into our marriage. I'm also not funding the dinner where you plan to humiliate me. She reached for my wrist, but I stepped back before she touched me. Justin, sit down. No. We can talk about this at home. I've tried to talk at home. You brought Chloe into it. You brought Adrian into it. You brought your mother and our friends into it. I'm done debating a version of my life you edited. Her face hardened beneath the tears. So you're just abandoning me on our anniversary? I'm leaving a staged hearing. That is not the same thing. I looked at Chloe. You don't owe me an apology tonight. Just don't let anyone use you this way again. Then I looked at Adrian. This really was between us. It should have stayed that way. I walked out before the food was ordered. My phone started ringing before I reached the parking lot. Serena called 6 times in 10 minutes. Then came the messages. You blindsided me. You made me look insane. You planned this. You humiliated me in front of everyone. I read them sitting in my car and felt no satisfaction. Mostly I felt tired. I wrote one reply. You planned a confession. I brought records. Then I muted the conversation and drove to Ryan's place. The immediate fallout was messy, but not loud. Chloe texted me the next morning. I'm sorry. I should have asked you before I judged you. She told me you refused every attempt to get help. I didn't know she had canceled the sessions. I also didn't know she invited me because she wanted a witness against you. I replied, Thank you for saying that. I'm not asking you to choose sides. I'm asking you not to repeat things you haven't verified. She wrote back, Fair. Adrian sent a shorter message later that day. I didn't know she was telling us different things. I'm backing out of this completely. I did not reply. There was nothing useful to say. Elaine called me that afternoon, already angry. My daughter is devastated, she said. Whatever problems you two have, you did not need to ambush her in public. She invited the public, I said. She said you brought documents to shame her. I brought appointment confirmations because she told you, Chloe, and other people that I refused counseling. Elaine went quiet. She told me she begged you, she said. I know. I can send you the timeline if you want it. I'm not arguing about this from memory anymore. I emailed it to her. 20 minutes later, she called again. Her voice had changed. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything. She did cancel them. Yes. And the voicemail? She left it for me. Elaine exhaled slowly. I should have asked more questions. You should have. That was all I needed from her. A few mutual friends sent vague messages about how they had only been trying to support Serena. 2 apologized directly. Others went silent. I did not chase any of them. I had spent too much time chasing people who had already accepted a verdict. Serena returned home the next evening. I was there because the house and responsibilities were still shared, and I had no intention of acting recklessly. I had moved my clothes into the guest room, removed my card from non-essential subscriptions and social expenses, and canceled the anniversary trip. I kept household necessities covered and transferred my fair share of the regular bills exactly as before. I had also retrieved the spare key Serena had once told me Adrian used when he dropped something off while we were away. She had said it was no big deal. It felt like a very big deal now. When she saw the key on the kitchen counter, she stopped. You went through my things. No. It was on your key ring by the door. He only had it once. He doesn't have access to our private space anymore. You don't get to make unilateral rules. You made a unilateral decision to bring him into our marriage. I'm making a boundary about physical access to the house. She saw the canceled hotel email open on the counter. You canceled the trip too? Yes. That money was for us. The refundable part is back in the account. I'm not spending the rest on pretending we're fine. She stared at me. So this is punishment? No. Punishment would be trying to hurt you. This is me refusing to fund the image of a marriage you were dismantling in private. She laughed bitterly. There it is. The cold speech. I'm willing to talk through a counselor. I'm not willing to perform guilt in front of your witnesses. She crossed her arms. You expect me to go to counseling after what you did? I expect nothing. I'm offering one final session so we can decide what happens next without an audience. For once, she did not answer immediately. That night, she left 3 voice messages from the bedroom, even though we were in the same house. The first was angry. The second was tearful. The third said I had destroyed her friendships by forcing people to choose. I did not argue through voicemail. The next morning, I sent a written boundary. Important conversations will happen with a counselor or be summarized by text afterward. Adrian is not to enter the house. Shared essentials will remain fair. Non-essential spending tied to social events, trips, or appearances is paused. I will not discuss our marriage with friends as a substitute for counseling. Serena replied, You're treating me like a legal case. I wrote, I'm creating a record because you changed the record. She agreed to the session 2 days later. The counselor was the third one I had originally found. The one Serena had said was unavailable because Friday afternoons did not work. Suddenly Friday worked. We sat on opposite ends of a couch in a quiet office. Serena began by explaining that she had felt lonely, unwanted, and terrified I would eventually leave her. The counselor listened, then asked me to speak. I admitted that I had avoided conflict. I admitted that I sometimes became emotionally numb because I felt trapped in conversations where every answer was wrong. I admitted that I should have confronted the false stories sooner instead of hoping they would disappear. Then the counselor turned back to Serena. That explains how you felt, she said. It does not explain why you changed the facts. Serena's shoulders tightened. I didn't change facts. I described my experience. Did Justin refuse counseling, or did you cancel the appointments? Serena looked at me. The counselor said, Please answer me, not him. Serena swallowed. I canceled them. Why did you tell other people he refused? Because by the time he booked them, I felt like it was too late. That explains why you canceled. It does not explain why you said he refused. Serena pressed her fingertips together. I wanted people to understand how alone I felt. The counselor's voice stayed neutral. You could have said you felt alone. Why did you say he rejected counseling? The room was quiet long enough that I could hear the hum of the air vent. Finally, Serena said, because I thought if he felt me slipping away, he'd finally fight for me. The counselor nodded once. And Adrian? Serena's eyes filled again. I needed support. Support and triangulation are not the same thing. Did you use Adrian's presence to provoke Justin? Serena looked down. Yes. Why? I wanted Justin to react. He was always so calm. I wanted proof that he cared. I stared at her, and for the first time in months, I believed she was telling the truth. Not because the truth made her look good, because it finally didn't. I did care, I said. That's why it worked for as long as it did. Serena began crying quietly. I didn't want the marriage to end, she said. You built a separation story for months. I wanted leverage. I wanted you to feel like you had to choose me. You didn't make me fight for you, I said. You made me fight a fake version of myself. She shook her head. I was scared you would leave. So you created a situation where staying required me to accept a lie. I can fix it. How? I'll tell everyone I exaggerated. I'll cut off Adrian. I'll go to counseling. The offer would have meant everything to me 6 months earlier. Sitting there, it felt like another response to a consequence rather than a decision to be honest. The counselor asked what I wanted. I took a breath. I want the marriage to end. Serena stared at me as if I had said something impossible. You're deciding that after one session? No. I'm saying it after years of moving targets, 3 canceled sessions, public accusations, and a dinner designed to corner me. This session just gave me the final answer. She wiped her face. So there's nothing I can do? You can tell the truth. You can stop using people to regulate your fear. You can learn to ask for reassurance without punishing someone until they provide it. But I'm not staying married while you learn. You love me. I do, I said. But I'm not going to spend the rest of my life proving I'm not the villain you need me to be. The counselor did not try to talk me out of it. She shifted the conversation toward a structured separation and suggested that future discussions stay focused on logistics. Serena was quiet for the rest of the session. Over the next several weeks, the consequences became less dramatic and more permanent. Chloe stopped acting as Serena's defender. They did not have a huge public falling out, but Chloe no longer came running whenever Serena sent a crisis message. Adrian disappeared from the situation completely. Elaine stopped calling me cold. The mutual friends who had believed Serena either apologized or learned that silence worked both ways. Serena eventually sent a short message to several people saying she had misrepresented my willingness to attend counseling and had involved others in conflicts that should have remained private. It was not a perfect apology. She still described herself as overwhelmed and afraid. But she corrected the central lie. That mattered, even though it did not change my decision. I also had to face my part without turning it into shared blame for her choices. I had stayed quiet too long. I had confused endurance with patience. I had treated calmness like a complete moral strategy when sometimes calmness was only fear wearing a respectable face. I should have said, months earlier, this is not acceptable, and I will leave if it continues. Instead, I kept adjusting the thermostat, buying the creamer, making reservations, and hoping ordinary devotion would eventually be recognized as love. After we separated, the quiet felt different. I no longer listened for Serena's footsteps to guess whether I was being punished. I stopped checking the time when a phone lit up after midnight. I stopped rehearsing explanations before asking simple questions. One evening, I opened the refrigerator and saw 2 containers of coffee creamer out of habit. I almost laughed. For 9 years, I had measured love through small acts of anticipation. I still believed those acts mattered. I just no longer believed they could compensate for dishonesty. The anniversary dinner was supposed to be the night I admitted I had failed my wife in front of the people she had trained to judge me. Instead, it became the night everyone saw that the marriage had been turned into a performance long before I arrived. I didn't bring someone else into my marriage to hurt her. I brought the truth into the room, and that did more damage than any revenge ever could. If you like the stories, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.